the respect I have for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is extraordinary because I respect very much the commitment to family, to moral righteousness, to a sense of right and wrong. It's part of what has drawn me to an understanding that Israel in many ways is a reflection of our own heritage and history. And I'm like, well, that was a very good answer, Mr. Huckabee, because I think we can all agree on family. I think we can all
Yeah.
agree on moral righteousness. We can all agree on a sense of right and wrong. So you
Yep.
picked the things that we share a common interest on, and you didn't say you're an anti-Christian cult.
Yeah.
As the cold winds of winter sweep in, there's nothing like the warmth of a comforting cup to help you slow down and unwind. This is the season. Let Postum be your cozy companion. Made from roasted grains, Postum is caffeine-free and rich with a smooth roasted flavor. It's the perfect drink for those quiet, chilly mornings. Whether you're curled up with a good book, sharing a laugh with loved ones, or simply watching the snow fall outside, a cup of Postum is the moment you have been waiting for.
Welcome, Twim Nation. This is This Week in Mormons, the Taffy edition, which stands for Tiffany and Friends for You. I am your host tonight, Tiffany Hales, and I am here with Sarah Jorgensen. Yay! Thank you, Sarah. I've had you on as a guest several times. For those of you who don't recall, Sarah is a listener and she lives in St. George.
I
At
sure
least I'm
do.
assuming you still live in St. George.
I do. I have not moved.
All right. Well, Sarah, kind of catch us up. Tell us what's going on in your life these days. Since it's probably been at least a year since you and I have recorded together. It's been a
Yeah, it's
while.
been a minute. I am still working for church. I'm still working in the primary, which is
Okay.
great. And I started a new job. It's a long-term sub position. I'm usually just an elementary school sub, so I, go in on some days randomly, but I took a long-term position in a high ability classroom. So I
Oh,
have like groups of kids that have been tested into an high ability program, and it's way fun. Right now we're writing stories, choose your own adventure stories. So the kids are really
oh,
working on
how
these
fun.
complex stories, which has just been really fun. So
Well,
it's my
that
youngest's
sounds,
last year in elementary school, and so it's been fun to be at his school for the last
oh,
little bit. So
well, and then you're on the same schedule he's on
yeah, it's great.
because when school is out, you're out and vice
Exactly.
versa.
Yep.
So what is your weather like in St. George? I bet right now it is a wonderful time to be living in St. George.
All I can say is it's gloriously beautiful. It's like today it was probably 80, 75,
Oh,
80. It's been hot the last couple days though. It's been in the high 80s and
uh-huh.
a little nerve-wrackingly like too warm in March. But it's supposed to cool down to 70s for the next, 10 days on the forecast. So we're hoping that we're not going to hit 100 before
Oh
before
my gosh.
but we haven't yet, and it's been really great. So,
Awesome. Well, we had 2 days this week where it was high 70s just to kind of tease
yep.
spring, and I hate it because it's really cruel and unusual punishment because now we are back. So we acclimate. Actually, it was about 3 days of this really nice kind of perfect temperature weather,
Yep.
and then we drop back down to 50s. So today it was a work from home day for me. So, I just got dressed, put a t-shirt on, put a pair of jogger pants on because that's easily what I could have worn for the last few days. And it wasn't until like after 5 o'clock tonight that I actually walked outside. I went, oh, I need to go back inside and get a sweatshirt because it's
Cold,
cold.
yeah. Yes. I have been living in, the sweatshirts for months, but now I'm like, "Oh, I need to get my t-shirts out." It's a great time to be in St. George right now.
Exactly. So, speaking of getting your t-shirts out, now that you mentioned that, I was going to talk about this with Ariane a few weeks ago, and then we just got so busy and I forgot. So, I'm going to have this discussion with you tonight, Sarah.
I'm ready.
Okay. Uh, I am sure you have followed that the church late last year indicated that they were going to be releasing some new styles of women's garments, including some tank tops, as well as half slips and regular full slips. Very, very dramatic change
Yeah.
from what the regular, what the garment has been for several years now.
Yeah.
So when the church released that they were going to do this, they said, at least for the saints in America, y'all aren't getting them till the end of 2025. They were going to release these to the saints that lived in the warmer and hotter climates, which again, I cannot beef with that because they probably deserve that more than me.
Yeah.
I'm just vain, and I freely admit it. Anyway, so what I have been noticing is, I guess because I talk about garments frequently enough on TWIM, and your iPhone is always listening, that the algorithm for Instagram has picked this up, and it has suggested to me several influencers, so to speak, who have recently been able to get their hands on these new garments and have been not showing the garment itself, but showing the clothing that they can wear over the garment on Instagram. So there was a first one that I saw, and she detailed several different styles and showed several different styles. Then there was one today that popped up, and I liked her enough. I actually followed her today. In fact, I'm,
Okay.
I'm gonna. I'm going to reach out to her and see if there's any chance I can get her on the show. I probably can't, but I'm going to try, because when she was giving this description of the garments and she was talking about some of the reasons and things for the change, she seemed to indicate that she had done some advocacy with the church for
Mm.
this. And so I was like, oh, I'm very curious about this. So she has the new tank top, and she also has a modest clothing company, which would be another fascinating thing to talk to her about. So she's got this modest clothing company. She's showing what the tank top looks like with a regular, with a tank top over the top. And then she, of course, is designing tank tops for her modest clothing company that can be worn with these new garment tank tops. Let me
Okay.
tell you, these garment tank tops blow my mind.
It's a
Like,
big change.
it's a huge change.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're scooped pretty low in front and they're scooped pretty low in back. And it looks like they have probably maybe an inch and a half, kind of along the shoulder. I mean, it's a legit tank top that she's wearing. So her Instagram is called Modest Shoppin', MODESTSHOPPIN is her Instagram. For anybody who wants to go follow her and see her modeling the garment tank tops with a regular tank top over the top. Like I said, it is like completely mind blowing. She also did the half slip and talked about the half slip. I haven't seen her do one with a full slip yet. Anyway, so fascinating to see these kind of popping up on Instagram. Of course, it made me wonder, okay, she must have traveled to a foreign
Well,
country to
that's
get
my
her hands
question
on
is like,
these.
how is this like they're not I mean, the church is not like sending like samples to influencers, right? Like that
Well,
seems weird. Like, I don't know though. I mean, I don't know how this all works, but that feels weird.
I I would assume that, because I mean that's legit how clothing companies do it, is they do send samples to influencers,
I mean, yeah,
hoping that
but
hoping that influencers will try their clothing on. But I don't think the church does that.
like it feels weird
Although
for the garment. Doesn't it? Like, I
it
mean, I get
does.
it, for fashion, right? But
Yeah. Although I really was curious when she said that she'd had some input on some of these designs,
yeah,
it
that's
made me
true. She
wonder, okay, did they send her some tops to try because she had some input? I just don't know, because the other girl that I saw, and I can't remember who she is, that was on Instagram doing this, because I didn't follow her. I didn't elect to follow her. I didn't find her as engaging as this
yeah,
particular girl.
yeah,
Anyway, uh, she never said anything about,
yeah.
I was advocating for change. I was advocating for this. So again, it just made me wonder, did you go to a foreign country where these are available and go to church distribution?
I
And then
mean, I know someone that did that and brought them back in
uh-huh.
here. So, like, it's not
Yeah.
I mean, that's happening, you know what I mean? We all
It's
know that's
happening.
happening,
Exactly.
but I don't know, it's weird. I keep feeling like I hope that um, like, the actual people that are making, like, purchasing for the distribution centers in Utah, like, really understand like, how many people want them. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm like,
I do.
I mean, remember when there was, like, that shortage of garments and you couldn't
Oh,
buy
yeah.
them forever? Like, I'm like, I like, this is a big deal. Everyone's gonna want them. You need, like, more than you think you need. Like, please
Ex
over-order because I just feel like it's gonna be intense.
exactly. That is exactly how I feel too, is I feel like it's gonna be intense, and what made me think of it is, I mean, down there in St. George where it is so warm, would you consider the tank top garment with a tank top? Should it become available in your area?
Well, I thought when I read the original thing, I was like, "Oh, we'll get it because
Yeah,
it's hot here." Like, I mean, like, it's really hot, you know what I mean?
yeah,
But, I mean, it's not hot and humid, so, like, I understand when they were then I read, like, the list of countries, I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that makes more sense. Please go to Thailand first, that's fine." Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
But, like,
exactly.
we have to be on the list somewhere, but I think if they can't I just don't think you can release it in St. George and not in Salt Lake. You know what I
I
mean? Like, I
I
just feel like
agree.
it's too close.
I
But
agree.
I mean, everyone I know is, like, waiting on bated breath for them
Yeah,
to get to our distribution center, so I really want it to be, like, available
yeah,
for everybody to figure out,
exactly.
you know what I mean? Together we can all I was talking to a friend about this recently this week, and she said that well, we were talking back and forth a little bit about it's gonna be like a cultural shift a little bit, like, we're all gonna kinda have to work together to figure out how we all do you know what I mean? Like, because it's just been
I
such a
do.
standard for forever in this certain way, and to have it be totally different now is that's a big change, I don't know, it's gonna
It
be kinda fun to
it
work through.
is it is going to be a very big change. I had a couple of I things that came to mind as I was like, first of all, in the summertime, to see women show up in sacrament meeting in sleeveless dresses, because
Yeah,
there are a lot of sleeveless dresses out there. And I mean, that is so outside of the norm
I
of what we
know.
usually see for sacrament meeting,
Yeah,
and if there are people there who don't, maybe don't follow the internet as much, aren't aware of these new garment
I
styles,
know.
are they just gonna be like, "Oh, why are all the women in tank dresses?"
Yeah. Well, even take it one step further, what about a wedding dress? You can wear a
Oh,
wedding
yeah.
dress that's I mean, not maybe not in the
Yeah.
temple, right? But, like,
Yeah.
outside, you're I
Exactly.
feel like you and I feel like we should all be, like, proud to call them ours. Do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
which is just gonna be a I don't know, we're all gonna have to really work on the, like, maybe unconscious, like, decisions we're making or bias that we hold. We're gonna have
Yes.
to kind of all work through that a little bit because that's a big change and it's gonna be
Mhm.
new.
I think we are going to have to work through that because it will be visually so different.
Yeah.
You know, here's the thing that I am wondering about, just for me personally. So, I'm very excited about the tank top option, but I don't know if I'm actually going to wear a tank top.
Yeah.
Now, 20 years ago, absolutely I would have worn a tank top. The
Yes.
problem I have now is I have old lady flabby arms. And so I don't know if I really want to wear a tank top,
Yeah.
just because I don't
You
know if I
can.
want to. I've got my old lady flabby arms, and so I
Yeah.
don't know if I'll actually do that. I'm sure that I will buy several, because I could see me, like, wearing it around the house,
Yeah.
on an at-home day or something like that. I could definitely see that. I just don't know if I'd go out in public, not that I would feel immodest, but just I don't want my flappy old lady
Well,
arms
just it's
flapping
not the
around.
fashion you're, like, choosing to,
Yeah,
wear, which is
exactly.
fine. Yeah, it's interesting though because I think that'll make a big difference even in the kinds of dresses, like just the cut of the garment sleeve now, like
Yeah,
eliminates dresses that even have a sleeve. Do you know what I mean? But like
yeah,
the little armhole is like just
exactly.
off or whatever. So I think it's gonna make a lot of fashion more possible. I mean, like certainly a sleeveless dress is more possible because it doesn't have a sleeve on there, but also like even a lot of the other ones you'll be able to wear without worrying if anything's like popping out.
Exactly.
So,
Well, and that's one of the things that this influencer was showing is she was showing that the armhole underneath on these tank top garments was so much lower so that
yeah,
it's not showing the garment through, with the
yeah.
tank top.
Do you
So,
think that like they had to sit and make a decision on like is this garment really going to be about modesty or is it going to be about our covenants? And they like chose covenants, right? Because
yeah.
it's a big give to like take away the whole sleeve. Like, but I really
Yeah,
feel like maybe we really are serious about this is about our covenants and a reminder
exactly.
of, you know what I mean, the work that we're doing here. And
Exactly.
I think that's a cool message that's being sent is like this is not about modesty
Modesty. And that's what I
in
think
our
too, because
traditional way that we've thought about it forever.
exactly, because growing up, I remember when I got to be a teenager, my mom was like, "You'll not wear shorts." And I'm like, "Why?" Because when you go through the temple someday, you can't wear shorts and shorts are immodest.
Right.
And I was just like, it was one of those things as a teenager that I was just like, didn't make any sense to me
Yeah.
whatsoever, because again, it was so historically tied to modesty.
Right.
And I think it is less tied to modesty and more tied to our covenants, which I hope means that, because we've talked about this on the show, there are a lot of the younger generation that, that, they're their garment wearing is a little different than what my garment wearing is. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
For a variety of reasons. And so will this encourage more of that? I don't know, because I know that there have been a lot of issues with the styles and the fabrics and certain things with regards to the garment. So I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see how this rolls out. It is going to be very interesting as the summer rolls along to
I
see
know.
who has been to a foreign country and who hasn't. I
I haven't
I
been. Can you believe it? I forgot to plan a trip. I didn't know.
plan a trip to go get your garments. Okay, I had a wicked thought tonight. I was like, "Oh, this is awful." We've got a sister missionary in our ward, an older sister missionary.
Okay.
And she is in the Philippines and she comes home in May. And I was like, should I send her an email and say, "Deanne, score me one of the slips and score me one of the tank tops and please bring them home to me."
That's got to be the way a lot of people are getting them, right? Like I feel like that's got to be it.
It could be. I know.
Oh, that's so funny. I
I'm
love it.
I am not going to do that. I am not going to ask Deanne to do that. But I was like, "Oh, she's in the Philippines."
Maybe she'll listen to the podcast and she'll just do it, you know? I mean, it's world
Um,
famous, right? The whole
it's
podcast.
world famous. I have a feeling on her mission listening to my lonely little podcast here is
You
probably
never
not
know
a
what
high
your sphere of
priority.
influence is, you know?
There you go.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
All right. Well, before we move into some stories, I just want to note one kind of interesting email that I received today. So, because I've signed up in the past to receive Tabernacle Choir tickets, I got an email today that said on Sunday, July 13th, 2025, Music and the Spoken Word will celebrate as a historic milestone. It's 5,000th consecutive week of network broadcasting. So, to
Oh,
commemorate this, they are saying we would love to hear from you, especially if you've had a meaningful experience, an inspirational story, or special memory connected to music and the spoken word. So you are invited to share those memories by emailing at 5000 at tabchoir.org. So
wow. That's
I
cool.
know it's very cool. So it'll be interesting to see what the church does with those. So, all right. Well, to begin with stories tonight, I would be remiss if I did not address BYU's loss last night. They were in the Sweet 16. They were playing Alabama. Everybody thought that it was going to be a pretty close game because their styles are very similar.
Mhm.
Their offense is very similar, and so everybody was thinking it would be a game that would be separated by 2 to 4 points, and it wasn't. It was separated by many points because Alabama had an outstanding night last night, broke a whole bunch of records, and kind of whooped up the Cougars. Very sad for the Cougars, but I do have to say what Kevin Young has done in the span of 12 months since they announced him as the new coach for BYU. pretty amazing. So
Yeah.
hats off to making it to the Sweet 16. That's fantastic.
That's further than they've made it recently, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's so,
exactly.
like,
It's been
it's
a
not
while.
I mean, it's not they didn't win the whole thing, but,
Yeah,
can't win them all,
exactly. Can't win them all. And so anyway, we'll be back again next year to see how the Cougs do. So, our first story of the night tonight is Senator John Curtis. He is a United States Senator. He used to be a representative from Utah. When Mitt Romney announced that he was not going to run, Senator Curtis announced that he was going to run. And so he is actually occupying right now the seat formerly held by Mitt Romney. So, this week there was a gentleman by the name of Mike Huckabee, and he was nominated by President Donald Trump as the next U.S. ambassador to Israel. And of course, anybody who's nominated has to go through a confirmation process. And so, Senator John Curtis was on the committee that was hearing was doing the confirmation for Mike Huckabee. Now, let me just give you some background here as to why this story is somewhat interesting. So, Mike Huckabee ran for president in 2008, and it was at the same time that Mitt Romney was running for president. He is a former governor of Arkansas. He is also an ordained Baptist pastor, and when he was running in 2008, he really didn't have kind things to say about members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He was really rather rude, to say the least. So, supposedly, he apologized for that years ago. I don't know if I believe him or if he was just apologizing because he's sorry he got caught. Well, I mean, you make a public statement, obviously you're going to get caught, but sorry he got called out on the rug about it. I think he was appealing to his very evangelical base. And as you
Yeah.
know, evangelicals generally don't perceive us to be Christian. They think we are some sort of weird cult, sort of a thing. They put us in the same classification as the Catholics. The Catholics aren't Christian either, which is kind of hilarious. Anyway, so Senator Curtis, having Mr. Huckabee on the hot seat, goes, Utah has a really special relationship with Israel, Mr. Huckabee,
Little did
and
you know.
talked about the Jerusalem Center. John Curtis actually had gone and done, I think he did 6 months abroad in Jerusalem when he was a BYU student. It was before they had the Jerusalem Center. And so he Israel holds a special place in his heart. And so Senator Curtis said, Mr. Huckabee or Governor Huckabee, is I'm going to give you an opportunity to what did he say here? Let me see if I can find it. It was very funny how he phrased it. He basically said, "Would you like to talk about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and would you like to me to carry a message back to Utah about your feelings about us?" And Mike Huckabee, being the politician that he is, said, "Oh, I have respect for the Church of Jesus Christ of my the respect I have." For the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is extraordinary because I respect very much the commitment to family, to moral righteousness, to a sense of right and wrong. It's part of what has drawn me to an understanding that Israel, in many ways, is a reflection of our own heritage and history. And I'm like, well, that was a very good answer, Mr. Huckabee, because I think we can all agree on family. I think we can all
Yeah.
agree on moral righteousness. We can all agree on a sense of right and wrong. So you
Yep.
picked the things that we share a common interest on, and you didn't say you're an anti-Christian cult.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like, I feel like, can we really I don't know, it's interesting to, like, hear how, like, things you said before I mean, because he could have had a whole new experience with people and
Yes,
religions, and, it's 2008 was a long time ago, but it's so
that was
hard
a
to
long
have
time
to
ago.
answer back to, like, what you
I know
said then, you know what I mean? Because he had a whole different purpose too, like, well, I'm going
exactly.
against Mitt Romney, so it's just a tricky I just feel
It
bad for
is.
people that are in the public space because they just have so many eyeballs on them, and you really never know if they're genuine or not, so it's just hard for me and them. So,
I
whatever.
I probably should give Mr. Huckabee a little more grace,
No, I don't.
but
I'm not. That's not.
I'm
I don't.
I'm
I just feel
I'm
like,
s I'm
oh,
still a little bitter about his 2008 comments, and I just
yes.
don't know if I believe him.
Well, it is. I mean, like, how do you move from such? You know what I mean? Like one
Yeah,
thing to a different thing. Like that's. I would love to know. Like, if that's true, tell me about that journey because that sounds
exactly.
like an interesting path you've been on. You know what I mean?
Well,
So,
and you know what? Honestly, that's what I'd like to know is if your opinion has changed, what caused your opinion to change
yeah,
other than, oh, I need to say something nice
yeah,
because I said something nasty.
yeah,
Has your opinion really changed or are you just giving lip service?
yeah. Like you
In
want to
any
see the true
event,
transformation, not just
exactly.
hear the beautiful words.
Senator Curtis was I think when he was saying that to Mike Huckabee, I mean, it was half in jest. I think that Senator Curtis really does have respect for Governor Huckabee
Yeah,
because he did
yeah.
say to Governor Huckabee, he talked about the Jerusalem Center and he said, it's on the Mount of Olives. I would like to invite you to meet there on campus as you get your feet underneath you. And if you're okay, I'll help broker that agreement. I think they'd love to have you there and see what they're doing in Jerusalem. And Senator Curtis said he would make sure that there was an organ recital for Huckabee's visits.
So I really hope they meet there. I hope they go to the
I hope
BYU
so too.
Jerusalem Center together, and I hope they have, a beautiful bonding moment.
Exactly. All right. Should we talk about the next one, which also
Yes,
involves yet a
another
former
senator.
senator?
Yes. Gordon and Sharon Smith have been called as the next directors of church hosting. So the article it'll start their position will start on July 1st of this year. I liked reading about their like what they've done in their life. Like he had 2 terms in the Senate and he was an Area 70, and then for years he was the president and CEO of the National Association of
Oh,
Broadcasters. And she taught second grade and was a Ward Relief Society president and did a lot of things while her husband was in the Senate. And one of those that they mentioned was that she was part of the National Alliance for Mental Health. And I think it's a little bit interesting that they have to have this calling. It kind of shows that there's like some big conversations happening in the church and they need people to be in charge of hosting like civil leaders and religious people, and sounds like a hard job to me. It just seems like,
sounds like a
the
job
planning.
for a
So
politician.
yeah, yeah, no, it does, and a broadcaster. Like, I mean, he clearly knows how to say the right
Exactly.
things. I wouldn't be good at that job at all because I'd be like, "Hey, bros, let's party." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, I'm glad that people can do it and they can, build great relationships because, I mean, we need that. Obviously, we're fostering so many connections with different, countries and
Exactly.
religions, and we're doing a lot of work. So we have to be able to build those relationships. So I'm glad that someone is able to do it.
And here's another interesting thing that I thought about. So, in this role, what they do is their aim is to make visitors feel welcome to the church's headquarters in Salt Lake City. So, we know in 2027,
Yeah.
we're going to have a really big party at headquarters in Salt Lake City called a Temple Open
Like a
House
party, a
for
6 month long one.
a 6-month long party. And so it makes me think that, I mean, not that this wasn't an inspired call because I do think it was an inspired call, but he is bringing a lot to the table, so to speak,
Yeah,
for when they have that open house because he has those connections from being in the Senate. He
yeah,
has those media connections. And of course, the church wants to milk the Salt Lake Temple open house for all of the positive media that they can,
yeah,
as well they should.
yeah,
I want to see that positive media coming out from the church when they do the open house
yeah,
because it's nobody's seen, if you are not a member with a temple recommend, you have not seen the interior of that temple in a really long time.
yeah,
Well, or
yeah,
I should say it hasn't been available. It has not been available to be seen
yeah.
in a really long time.
We just had our St. George Temple open house. I mean, it's been, a while now, but
Uh-huh.
it was such a production. And then we had after that the Red Cliffs one that was
Yeah.
like it was much smaller scale because it's a new
Yeah.
temple instead of a restored historic one.
Yes.
But it was so interesting to see the work that went into that St. George one. They had like artifacts from people, like they collected all kinds of stuff and did all of these, walkthroughs of like people's experiences with the temple. And I'm sure that the Salt Lake one will be on a much grander scale just because there's so much more history with it. You know what I mean? And it's been so
Exactly.
integral. But I think I mean, I'm glad that they have someone that has experience in exactly this because obviously that's a big job.
It is. Again, I think it's just going to be fascinating for the next,
Yeah.
2 years or so to watch the lead up to this open house. And I predict that TWIM will have a lot of stories covering the lead up to this open
Oh yeah.
house. Because
I'm
I
sure
think we've
too.
talked about it in like every episode since they've announced it. At least I
Yeah.
have.
I thought it was so funny they announced it 2 years early too. Like I was like,
I know.
oh, I'll put it in my calendar. Okay. Like
Exactly.
what am I supposed to do with this? Like in 2 years, I don't even know if I'll be here then. I don't know. Like
Now,
what are we
who
doing?
knows?
Oh,
All
that's
right.
so
Well, let's
funny.
move on and let's talk about Easter hymns.
Yes, they dropped new hymns, and 3 of them are specifically Easter hymns, which is kind of cool that they're, like, making a Easter part of the I think it follows the guidance that we should celebrate Easter as much as we celebrate Christmas, that we're gonna have, like, a few Easter hymns that we can sing before Easter and on Easter. The 3 in the newest group of hymns that were, given to us is the day that's whoa, hold on. Oh, hail the day that sees him rise. Let Easter anthems ring, and were you there? And then also, Gethsemane was released in one of the earlier groups of hymns, but they're all like very specific. And they also said that this is the Christ, and there was one more that they said that could be for specifically Easter.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I'm excited. I think it's cool. Some of the histories on some of those hymns is really cool to just the different like cultural significance. I think is a neat addition to our congregation and our worship.
Yeah. I am really curious to see how this gets rolled out in various wards because traditionally it seems like we've really only sung Easter hymns on Easter as opposed to Christmas where, the first Sunday in December rolls around and you're singing for, the next
Month.
3-4
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah.
Um, we currently have 4 hymns in the old hymnal right now related to Easter. We have my 2 favorites, which is He is risen and Christ the Lord is risen today. They are very, I want, for lack of a better term, bombastic. The organ is pounding and you're singing and you're
Yeah.
rejoicing that the Lord is risen. And then we've got 2, O Savior, thou who wearest a crown, and that Easter morn. And a couple of years ago, I don't know which one it was we sang on Easter, and I was like, "This song is depressing. Why are we singing this on Easter?"
Right.
So I approached these new hymns with a little trepidation. So I listened today to 2 of them. I listened to "Hail the Day That Sees Him Rise" and "Let Easter Anthems Ring." I can live with them. They were kind of a mix between the bombastic that you
Uh-huh.
get with the "Wow, he is risen," and the other 2 hymns that I was like, "This is depressing." So I was like,
Yeah.
"I can
I
live
hear
with
that.
this."
I think
But
that's fair.
they're not hymns that we really know yet.
Yeah.
So do we roll a whole bunch of new ones out that nobody's really singing? Do we
Yeah.
sing them for the week preceding Easter and the week of Easter? I don't know. It's just going to be interesting to see what happens.
I mean, in most of the wards that I have been to recently, the new hymns have been a slow rollout all around. Like,
Yes.
it took a long time to get any music in the, little pew pocket things. Like, I'm interested to see how it will go because it would surprise me if every ward in the world was all of a sudden singing these
Yeah.
songs like in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever, whenever Easter is. So I don't
Yeah.
know, but I think it's so great to have like a section, like a dedicated Easter song part of the book.
Yeah.
I think that's a neat thing, and like lots of
I
different options.
I like it too.
But I like the organ being really loud also.
I
So
do
I'm
too.
with you on that
If
one.
as long as I can get one of them, I'm not going
Yeah.
to be greedy. If I can get either He is risen or Christ the Lord is risen
Yeah.
today,
Yeah.
if I can get at least one of those, I'll be happy. If I don't get one of
Amen.
those, I'm going to be cranky.
Yeah. I'm with
That's
you.
that's that's
I'm
how
with
it's
you.
going to be.
Yep.
So I am
Yep.
not a musical person, but I have strong feelings on music.
I
So,
think that you are. We'll take you. Okay. We need all of the musical opinions too. Okay.
well, I cannot carry a tune. It's just
Oh.
frightening. But that's neither here nor there. So, all right, let's move on to the next story.
Yep.
BYU Hawaii, the Lai Temple, and the Polynesian Cultural Center. They are all going to go essentially off grid, so to speak. Um, there are some solar panels that are there providing some solar energy, and the church is going to put more solar panels there to the tune of about a 7-acre solar farm that is going to provide enough energy to provide for BYU Hawaii, the temple in Hawaii, and the Polynesian Cultural Center. And that is, to me, I think that is so huge. And the
Yeah.
reason that they are doing it is it was inspired by this Hawaiian concept of Kulinia. I know I completely mispronounced that, which means that it's rooted in the word is rooted in ancient Hawaiian culture and signifies both a stewardship and a responsibility to use the land to bless the lives of others, which I thought was awesome. And it also goes along with what the church has been trying to do, which is to be good stewards of the land, because we know that we have a gospel directive that we have to be righteous stewards of the natural world that comes from our Savior Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So I think that is really cool. They have a bunch of these solar panels that are apparently on the roof of a parking structure, and apparently you can like park underneath the solar panels. So like you get some shade on your car underneath the solar panels. I was like, wow, that's kind of fascinating that they let you park underneath the solar panels. They're not worried about someone, like backing into the solar panel and having it fall down.
Yep. Yep. I think it's a I thought the it was in the article it talked about how the church is adopting renewable energy practices through solar power across the South Pacific, and I just think that's like I just like that um the church is like helping with the um like I just like that they're that commitment to our earth, and I think that that's um I don't know, kind of new. Like it doesn't I mean I
It
think that's
is.
always been our belief, but I don't think that's been our practice for very long, or very loudly maybe. So I'm happy that they're kind of starting to be a little bit more like proactive, but also
Mhm.
informative about that, and that this is why. It's because like our church has a broader commitment to care for the earth for future generations to do the work of God. And like I just feel
They
like
do.
that's the message and that's important. So like I'm all about it. Like
Exactly.
take all the grass, do all the whatever. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm like, yes, let's actually, put our money where our mouth is a little bit and protect the earth. Great.
I love it, and I think you're absolutely right. We didn't used to have the focus that we have now,
Yeah.
uh, moving towards more sustainability, and I have seen that shift with the presiding bishop. I know I'm going to
Yes.
mispronounce his name, Kasa
Cause or yeah, what
Causet. Anyway, he's
I don't know
French.
either.
So leave it to the French to influence our church to
Yeah.
say, hey, I think we need to take better care and responsibility of some of these natural resources that are part of our of the world, as they say, that Jesus Christ created for us. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's where I have seen a distinct shift, and I have seen a lot of talks and messaging he has given. That is a
Yeah.
real priority for him.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Oh,
Yes.
Mia
The
Love.
next yes, the next story is our former Utah Congressman Mia Love passed away. She um had brain cancer, and the article is a beautiful tribute to her life. I loved reading about it. I didn't know a ton about her life before she became a congresswoman, but is a cool story. She got involved in government because her house in Saratoga Springs had too many like bugs, and the builder wouldn't spray as part of this house that she was buying. So she put all these, her and all of her neighbors put all these signs in their yard that just said, like, don't buy here because there's bugs everywhere, and the builder's not doing anything about it. And it took, like, I think it said 1 week or something, and the builder came and sprayed all the houses and like made them take their signs down because they like made a big impact in like
Yeah.
sales of these houses. And I'm like, hello, that is just so cute. And she said that there was a cool part of the article that um she had, like, she talked about how her experiences in Utah led her to like believe in government and in participating in a like a
Mhm.
authentic way. And she brought that into this, Congress where not everybody
Yeah.
had those same experiences. And I just thought that was like an interesting legacy to leave, that your lived, your family, your community
Yeah.
all like pours into you, and then you bring your vessel full of whatever your people poured in, you know what I mean, to wherever you're
Yes.
serving. And I just think that's something to think about and remember when we're interacting with people. But also I just think that's a neat legacy for her to leave um behind, and we can all remember the work that she did and carry on that, Utah do goodness.
Exactly. Well, and she's notable for not only being a member of the church, but she was the first Black Republican woman in the U.S. House of
Yes.
Representatives, and
Yes.
she said that she had a Democrat from Louisiana ask her why she was a Republican, and she shared with him her parents' story of brutal and oppressive federal government. That's her parents grew up in Haiti, I
Yeah.
believe, is where she said her father was
Yeah.
from, and
Haitian.
how serving on the city council and as mayor helped to shape her views that the best government is one closest to the people. She was always for bigger people and less government. But by contrast, this congressman from Louisiana said, well, my experience with local government is local government wouldn't allow Black people to vote. It was the local police officers that were beating their families, their uncles, their aunts, and their mothers. And so he had had a completely different experience with local government than Mia Love had, which is why
Right.
he was a Democrat and more a proponent of the federal government.
Right.
And Mia was like, "Oh, okay, I can understand why you feel that way."
Right.
And and so they were able to have a mutual respect for each other. And so just very sad at her passing,
Yeah.
49, way too young,
So young. Yeah.
but leaves a great legacy. All right, let's talk about the Fairview Temple. I have talked about this a lot, so I'm going to try and summarize this quickly. Fairview. This is in Texas. We got one temple in Dallas. It is severely overworked. It's been there for a number of years. They need another temple. And so they've been trying to put one in Fairview. They proposed a building that was 44,000 square feet. Uh, the town council in Fairview got cranky. They proposed it on what's known as Church Row. There's a whole bunch of churches, and they really couldn't come up with any reason to deny it other than we just don't like how it looks, which really isn't a good reason to deny it. So the church had some really legitimate grounds to appeal it and get a lawsuit involved, except the church was trying not to do that. So they went back to the negotiating table with the town and agreed to make the building smaller, reduce the size of the steeple. They thought they had a mediated agreement. They were getting ready to file their new application. And then the town said, well, we want even more changes. We're still not happy. We still think it needs to be smaller. So at that point in time, the church was like, well, we're not filing an application. We're just going to appeal our old one. And so there was lots of back and forth between the church and the mayor and all of this. They finally got it worked out that the town decided that they would abide by their mediated agreement. So they filed a new application. The temple is going down from 44,000 square feet to 30,000 square feet. So they're losing 15,000 square feet, a main height of 45 feet, and a steeple height of 120 feet. So it looks like this is going to get through. And the gist of the article is the church was saying, we always seek to cooperate with communities while exercising our fundamental rights of worship. So they have a right if they purchase land and they meet the requirements to be able to build those types of things, but they also want to be good neighbors. So
Yeah.
I think that is an excellent example for us to follow.
Yes, I agree.
All right, you're up next.
The next story was a series of like short little videos that they put out about like taking the curtain, back from the setup and preparation that they have to do to make general conference happen every week. I mean, every year, or I guess twice a year.
Twice a
And
year.
yeah, anyway, they said, I mean, the numbers were crazy. The first video was about how there were there's 20,000 people that come to each session of conference, and by the time they get everybody out, they have 30 minutes before they open the doors again to start the new, like, there's like they end at,
Yeah,
let's see, noon, and then they open the doors at noon 30 for 12:30 for the next
yeah.
session to come in or whatever. And it like is crazy how many people they're getting in. They said that takes 9,000 hours um of work, like added up all the
Hmm.
missionaries together. They have guest service missionaries that come in, and they're all the people that are standing, helping everybody find their
Hmm.
seats and making sure everyone knows where they're going. They said that they had this whole video on how they set the stage up in there to, and they bring in all the chairs and the carpet and all of those wooden like pieces are all like little
Yeah,
pieces that they've put all together, which I don't know. I just thought it was always set up like that. I had no idea they're building this stage every single time for all of these people. And they said it takes 3 weeks to set up the stage. Um, which is just so I love that stuff because you just think everything is all set and easy when it is beautiful and it looks great and everyone's sitting on it, and you don't think of like they showed them like carrying each red chair to put up there, and then like they had all of this carpet they were stapling down, like that they pull up and put down every
yeah,
single time they have conference. And just so much preparation, and they showed behind the stage, they called it backstage, and there was all of this like, I mean, machinery, which of course, I mean, if I would have spent any time thinking about like the production that conference is, I mean, just the sheer amount of
yeah.
work it takes, but I just never have, and I really appreciated the backstage look because it just is cool. And then they had all of these missionaries talk on the videos about like, I feel like I'm treating people like Jesus would when they walk in, and people are coming in with heavy hearts and questions and needs, and I am there to, like the prophet's not there
Yeah.
meeting every single person, but I'm there and I meet. One of them said he comes into contact with 5,000 people every conference,
Wow.
every session that he does. He comes into contact with that many people. Either he helps them sit down or welcomes them in the door or whatever. And I just thought like, oh my gosh, there's so many pieces to this thing, and we just only see the speakers or the
Yeah.
choir, or you know what I mean? Like, we just
I
don't
I
know that
do.
there's just so many more. And then one of the people in the video said like, my part is so small in this whole grand scheme of things, but I really think that like that is doing the Lord's work, and that is where I find my savior, is in my teeny little part, because I did my part, this can happen, and then this can
Yeah.
happen, and then this can happen, and then the prophet can speak to everyone, and we can all hear the words of a living prophet because I came and built a stage that, so you know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah,
just felt
I
like,
do.
oh my gosh, we all can do that. You're right. Okay, we're all doing our little part in the, like, in the big picture.
It's it's a good metaphor. I did not get a chance to see these videos. I am hoping in the next couple of days that I can sit down and watch them, because every time I watch conference, or even when I am like, for example, last week I went to Dancing with the Stars was here in Boise, their tour.
Oh,
And so my
fun.
daughter and I went to the tour. And the whole time I am sitting there watching the stage, the logistical brain in me is like, how does this work? How do they integrate this? How does that go together?
Yeah,
I
you'd
am
love these
I
videos.
I am not enjoying the show because I'm too busy thinking
Yeah,
about the logistics because that's just how my brain works. And so I know when I get to these videos, especially the one about putting the stage together,
yeah.
that I'm going to be geeking out about that.
It was just so cool. I just like I literally truly never considered that they built a stage every single
Yeah.
like I've been obsessed with the plants that they bring in every time. There's an
Oh, yeah.
Instagram account that tracks every plant on the stage of the floral arrangements, and I'm like in love with it every time because I just think it's so cool that they have the
Oh, yeah.
florist, like a florist that's coming
Yeah.
to do this. And but then I didn't even occur to me that there's so many more pieces. And anyway,
Exactly.
I just think it was really I really enjoyed him. I thought it was a cool little backstage, view.
So you can find those on YouTube on the church's general conference channel for anybody who is looking for those videos.
Yep. Yep.
All right, we got two more stories before we get to Mormons in the media. So let's hit those real quick because we are just having too much fun. We are running up against our clock,
Yes.
Sarah.
Well, the first story I think is the next one is the Humanitarian report came
Yes.
out, and it showed that the last year the church said they're going to up their humanitarian numbers in 2020. Well, in 2023 they said they're going to up them in 2024, and they donated or gave $1.45 billion. That included 3,836 humanitarian projects, 6.6 million hours in 192 countries. Which I thought was, I mean, an incredible number.
Yeah.
And I just feel like so thrilled to be part of an organization that's having such a uh, big scale impact in the world. It's just a cool
Exactly.
thing.
It's really cool. And they also did a video. They were at Welfare Square and they had, I
Yeah.
believe, two members of the General Relief Society presidency. I believe they had Sister Yee and Sister Johnson. And
Yep.
then they had the presiding bishop, Gerald. See if you can pronounce his name for me.
I don't say. I don't
Kasey.
I don't know if I'm
Kasey.
doing it right either. It's
And I'm trying to remember who else they had there. They had somebody else there. Anyway, and so there's a whole video up on the church website about that too.
one more
All
thing they
right.
said in there that I thought was really cool is they said the most important humanitarian work we can do is to our own literal neighbors. And I just
Yeah,
think that's an important and really valid point that we all can do really important work in our own homes and in our own communities.
completely 100% agree.
Um,
All right. The last news story before we get into Mormons and the media, I'm just going to hit on this really quick. There is a new documentary that follows young adults during Latter-day Saint and NAACP fellowship to Ghana. It is called Building Bridges of Faith, the Church and the NAACP in Ghana. And it was released on Sunday, March 23rd. It's on the church's YouTube channel. Anyway, it follows some individuals who have family ties to Ghana, that their relatives started out as slaves in Ghana. And anyway, they all worship together and they walk some of these paths that their relatives had walked, and just talked about how healing it was, and just kind of coming together. And so, great documentary there. Fun thing to go watch, and a good. Probably what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to try and find that on Sunday. We like
yeah,
to
that'd be a good thing to
watch
do.
we like to watch things like that on Sunday, kind of step away from normal TV and look at some of this church stuff. And so we are spending a lot of time on the church's YouTube channel on Sunday, finding inspirational and uplifting things to
Yeah,
watch.
that's probably a great addition to that list.
Okay, let's do Mormons in the media. And we are going to start with The Bachelor had its final week this week. And I had no idea that you were like a super fan of The Bachelor. I said, perfect. I'm turning this over to you. You tell the listeners everything they need to know.
Um, the Bachelor was Grant, and he had a final two girls. Well, I mean, he had narrowed his pool down to two, Juliana and Latia. Latia is from, I think she's from Salt Lake or Orem or Provo or something up
Yeah, she
north.
grew up in Star Valley, Wyoming, and I think
Right.
she now resides in the Salt Lake area.
Yeah, I couldn't remember where she lived currently, but she made it all the way to the final two. They talked, I mean, more about religion than they normally talk about on The Bachelor, which is nothing. So it was interesting to see her, and her whole family came for the family visit. They do like a hometown family visit. They did it in Star Valley, Wyoming. And I mean, everyone came. Her grandpa came, her parents came, her siblings, their kids, I mean, it was like this huge, big family moment. And they were so loving. And the Bachelor was obviously not a member of our church, and actually he said he'd never met a Mormon, didn't really know anything about it, like he's a spiritual person, he said, and he had some kind of relationship with God that was important to him. But like, I don't think he has any like fundamental understanding of what it means to be a Mormon. And they kind of went back and forth a little bit and talked about like what it means and how her family would, you know, accept him and talk about him, and you know what I mean, like how they
Yeah,
would feel about him not being a member of their church and probably never being a member of their church. And it was, yeah, I thought they did a great job with it. I was like, what, we're talking about this, and it's not, some wild crazy person. That's, Latia was
yeah,
gracious and loving, and she ended up kind of getting burned in the end, but
because he didn't pick her. So tell me
no.
what you thought of the finale when he didn't pick her.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bummer. I think well, here's the thing, in my opinion, in my fan opinion, I think he made the right choice, because um I don't think he really wanted to be like Latia wanted a family tomorrow. She wanted to get married, she wanted to have children, she wanted to set this, like, have a very stable, like, just
Mhm.
central family. And he was, I think, is probably a really great guy, but I don't think that's really what he um wanted right now. I think
Yeah.
he eventually wants a family and does do all those things. So I think he made the right choice. But he also told Latia the entire way that you're the one I'm going to choose. We could stop recording right now. You're the one, all the way until the night before he proposed. And she said, Grant, can you believe we're getting engaged tomorrow? And he said, no, I can't wait. And then he dumped her.
Oh, that's
So like,
so harsh.
oh, she got, a little bit worked over in the end, but she handled it with like total grace. It was like really great. And I've watched every season of The Bachelor my whole life, so I thought it
Again,
was
super
great.
fan.
I have a party, Monday nights. It's the whole thing. I never
Love
thought
it.
that would like help me in a moment like this, but here we are.
Exactly.
Oh,
Well, and then there was talk about, would she be the next bachelorette? Because a lot of times they will pick
yeah,
the next bachelorette
yeah,
from the girl who got dumped. But apparently, it does not look like she will be the next bachelorette. News broke in February 2025 that the Bachelorette was
yeah,
canceled for its usual time slot in 2025, following season 21 with Jen Tran. And I guess the front runner was from a prior season, of Maria Georges. She
yeah,
was a fourth place finalist, but she turned the roll down, which led them to cancel the series for this year. So
yeah.
I don't
I
know.
think
Maybe they
I
revisit with her. I don't
I
know.
think they will bring Bachelorette back. They brought in a new producer for the Bachelor in Paradise season
Hmm.
that's coming this summer, and I think they're trying to change it up a little bit. That's what I read
Got it.
anyway. So
Okay.
it's gonna be good.
All right. Our last story in Mormons in the media, we have Ruby and Kevin Franke. They are officially divorced. So you are from the land where all of this occurred, down there in
Yeah,
southern Utah.
my husband
Um,
even works for the city of Ivins where the children were when they were found, so he knows all the police
oh,
officers. I mean, like, it's like
yeah.
it's
It's
horrific. I don't know
horrific.
what else to
Exactly.
say.
So, after the children were found, Kevin immediately went in and filed for divorce. He had not had any contact with Ruby or the children for a
Yeah,
year, but they finally got the divorce finalized. Kevin was given full custody of the four children who are still minors. Ruby was ordered not to have contact. He got to keep the Springville house. She got to keep some money she withdrew from their financial accounts. Um, And then, of course, he's talked about this on the Netflix series. Now, I am only about maybe one episode into the Netflix series. I just have been watching other stuff. But you indicated you've watched all of the Netflix series.
I did. I watched the whole thing, and I read Sherry Franke, their oldest daughter's book this week.
Oh, okay. So tell me, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it's just a pretty devastating situation. I'm I'm glad that they're divorced just so that the kids can have some normalcy. I mean, I think that's did they say he got full custody of the kids back? Because I read that
He did.
he did get them, so he has that. So
He He
okay,
did. He got full custody. So there were two parallel things going on. There was a child protection uh,
yeah,
court case going on, and then there was his custody battle for in his divorce. And
hmm
usually, what happens in the child protection cases, I don't know anything about this case. Those records are sealed. I can just tell you what generally happens is the goal is to reunite the children with the parent unless the
yeah,
parent is horrific. Kevin wasn't horrific. Kevin probably just should have been more aware of what was going
yeah,
on, and
yeah,
there were a whole bunch of reasons why he wasn't. So, presuming that he can physically and emotionally care for these children, the courts want the children back with him, and I
yeah,
suspect
yeah.
that's what
That makes
happened in
sense.
his child protection hearing.
Yeah, that makes sense. The I liked the Netflix series. I felt like Kevin came across a little bit like at the end he talked about how much he still loves her, and
Yeah,
yes, we're divorced, but like I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of healing that needs to happen all around, and that's just slow work. So I
yeah,
try not to like hold any feeling about like what was right or wrong. I mean, except the abuse is always wrong. But
yeah,
I feel like it's messy and it happened like slowly over a long, long, long time. So I think it will take a long time to kind of uncover all of the pieces. But
agreed.
I really hope for those kids that they have what they need to
I agree.
work through that trauma.
Yeah, because they're gonna need it.
Yeah.
All right. In my category of Mormons behaving badly, I don't know if this gentleman is LDS. He obviously has a beef with us because he was indicted for federal civil rights and arson charges in Mississippi for setting fire to a Mormon church. A federal grand jury in Gulfport, Mississippi, returned a 6-count superseding indictment charging Stephen Day with federal civil rights and arson violations for vandalizing and setting fire to a house of worship. Apparently, he set fire on 2 different days, July 5th and July 7th. So the 5th wasn't good enough. He had to come back and return on the 7th
The same
to a
chapel both
building.
times?
Yes, a building in
Wow.
Wiggins, Mississippi. So he faces, should he be convicted, because these are just charges,
Of
everybody
course.
is innocent until proven
Of
guilty.
course.
If he were convicted, he faces a minimum penalty of 5 years in prison and a maximum penalty of 20 years in prison on each of the arson charges, and a maximum penalty of 20 years in prison for each of the civil rights charges. So
That's a
he's
hefty
he's got
sentence.
a
I mean, it
he's
could
got
be.
a little sorting out to do.
Yeah.
So
That's crazy.
it is. All right. Shall we move on to favorite things? Now, before we move
Yes.
on to favorite things, I don't know if you were able to locate this.
I
So
was not.
I'm okay. Well,
I tried
I'm
my
gonna,
best.
and you did. I'm gonna hold this up.
Yeah.
These are the Hostess donuts, and they are the limited edition carrot cake. Now, several weeks ago, Melissa talked about these because Melissa said she was freaking the freak out because apparently these are just a once a year thing that come out, and she had found them at Maverick and she had cleared them out at Maverick, and she was talking about them on the podcast. Apparently, not only did she clear them out at Maverick up in Logan, according to you, not a Maverick in St. George had one. So I don't know if Melissa's been down to St. George lately, clearing out the Mavericks of these carrot
I
cake
went to
donuts.
3 Mavericks and 3 grocery stores, and they did not have them anywhere.
Anyway, I had asked you to do this because I thought we should try these on the podcast together. But since you couldn't find them, I'm going to try them myself
I
and I'm
want
going
you
to
to.
see if I agree or disagree with Melissa before we
Oh,
get to our
alright.
favorite things.
I'm very
I
excited about it.
had no idea that they had these carrot cake donuts until Melissa was talking about them.
Yeah.
So here they are, pulling them out of the package. They're just the kind of the teeny tiny donut. It looks like they have maybe a little glaze on them and then some toasted coconut, because who doesn't love a donut with toasted coconut? So here we
I
go.
feel you. Do we drum roll? What do we do to, fill the
Okay.
void?
So it's a Hostess product. It's filled with lots of preservatives. Now, I love a good preservative because I'm a child of the 70s, but you will taste the preservative flavor. It definitely doesn't taste like homemade carrot cake, but it's not horrible.
There you
I
go.
I'm not sure I would crave it in the same way that Melissa craves it, but it's not the worst thing I've ever eaten. Let's put it
Okay.
that way.
There you go.
Okay.
What a review.
Uh, there's my review. So, there you go. I don't
I
know what
love
else
it.
to say.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. You ate it. You did it.
I ate it. I did it.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay. So I do have a favorite thing to share, but because you're my guest, I always let my guest go first. So what favorite thing do you have to share tonight?
I brought a song. Is that okay?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
My family went to an Andy Grammer concert
Okay.
in like a year ago, and he sang the song that was unreleased, and we've been waiting and waiting and waiting for him to release it, and he finally released it a little bit ago. And I have a choir that I run at my local elementary school, and we're
Uh-huh.
singing it in the choir, and it's just so cute, and it's called
Oh.
Save a Spot in the Back for Me. And it says, the chorus essentially is, if nice guys finish last, then save a spot in the back for me, because that's what I want to be.
Oh.
And it's just so sweet, and the kids just sing it with their whole heart and soul, and it's just one of the cutest little moments. So anyway, it's Save a Spot in the Back for Me by Andy Grammer.
So I presume if you're on Spotify or or
Mhm.
Apple
Yeah.
Tunes, all of that, you can probably easily find it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, my favorite thing was going to be a Netflix show that I watched, but then I went to Costco tonight. So,
Perfect.
so let me tell you how this all went down. So we went to Costco tonight because my husband has a birthday on Sunday. It is a rather significant
A
birthday on Sunday.
significant birthday.
I will not
Okay.
out his age. I will
No
just
way.
say it has a 0 at the end.
There you go.
So we're flipping decades, and my husband loves to barbecue, and so we were at Costco to get some meat to barbecue as well as pellets for the Traeger.
The smoker. Yep.
So we weren't really doing the whole walk around Costco thing. We had some pretty specific stuff we were getting. So we go through the checkout and we are walking outside. And as we are making our way to the Costco exit, of course the food court is full and you can see things that people have in their baskets. And I see these Doritos that people have in their basket. They are it's called a
What?
tangy pickle. And so I see in 2 separate carts the Doritos, the tangy pickle. And so I say to my husband, "I am not leaving Costco without tangy pickle Doritos." So I
The
said,
bag
"You
is so big. It's so funny in this picture that
well,
I
it's a it's a Costco bag." So
oh,
I
it's so
say to my
funny.
husband, "You go put the stuff in the car. I'm gonna go find the Doritos." So I go back into the store. This is a very large bag. It is how many ounces do we have here? Uh, we have we have 1 pound, 14 ounces of
Of
tangy
Doritos.
pickle Doritos,
And
and
how are
for
they though?
for
Did you
six
eat
ninety
them?
nine. So that is the best value for Doritos. I actually really, really, really liked them. I am a
Okay.
huge fan of dill pickle chips. I love the Lay's dill pickle chips, but I have to admit I can only eat so many of the Lay's dill pickle chips because the flavoring on them will kind of like make my mouth sore, give me like some cankers and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but the corn on this cuts kind of that flavoring, and so these things were fantastic.
Oh,
I thought a couple of things. I thought, first of all, I really want to dip them in some ranch dip was one of the
oh,
things that I thought about.
well, we have to make that happen.
And then last night, what I did for dinner last night is I had 2 different bags of, like, just, like, some corn chips. You know how, like,
Uh-huh.
a bag gets opened and, it maybe there's a fourth of it left? They
Yeah.
have a sriracha flavored Dorito, which I'm not a huge fan of sriracha flavor, but my boys are, and so I dumped the remaining part of that on the tray to make nachos and then regular chips. Amazingly, the
Oh.
sriracha nachos or the sriracha chips make a really good nacho. I don't know if the dill pickle would, but
Oh. I
there
feel
I
like you
think
gotta
there's
try it.
some interesting combinations. My husband's first thought is he said, "I wanna try these with a tuna fish sandwich." And I was like, that's an
Wow.
interesting thought." So,
Okay. I mean, wow. This is
that
like a
is
whole new world opening up.
I know. I'd never even heard of it. So,
No,
there
I
you
haven't
go.
either. That's amazing.
So I will save the Netflix show that I was going to share. I'll save that for next time that I record
Okay.
because it'll still be there. Who knows
Perfect.
if the dill pickle corn chips will be?
I mean, for real. You have to do first things first.
It is Costco. All right. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Oh my gosh, this has been so fun. I seriously cannot believe how fast this hour has flown. It's like we
I
snapped our
agree.
fingers and boom, it is done. You've been a fantastic co host tonight.
You're sweet.
Twim Nation, please, if you have any comments, you can reach out at contact@thisweekinmormons.com. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on the Facebook. And so do not be a stranger. And of course, we post all of these videos on YouTube. So not only do you not have, you can listen to us if you want. If you really want to be extra, you can watch us on YouTube. And let me tell you, our YouTube comments, they are wild. But that's neither here nor there. So Kurt got accused apparently of mansplaining in his episode last week with Richie. I was like, I
Oh,
don't see it, but I thought
okay.
his episode with Richie was fantastic. So anyway, to each his own. Twim Nation, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks. See ya.